But first to the political and media news tonight, and there's a lot of it. You may have noticed the remarkable similarities between the Democratic Party's daily talking points and a lot of the political coverage you see from news outlets. Often these two things are identical. Even the fabled Rockettes at Radio City Music Hall are not as in sync. Everyone in this media political chorus line is putting on precisely the same performance. Consider the question of angry left-wing mobs. They seem to be everywhere all of a sudden in this formerly placid country. They're yelling at Republicans in restaurants and airports. They're pounding on the front doors of the Supreme Court. They're blocking intersections, threatening passersby on the street. This is the youth wing of the Democratic Party. Yet the Democratic Party's position is they do not exist. There are no mobs. Ignore your lying eyes. Well, not surprisingly, the media are suddenly saying exactly the same thing. Watch this Orwellian exchange from CNN yesterday.
When you see people like Ted Cruz getting chased out of restaurants by a mob.
You're not going to use the mob word here.
It's totally a mob. It is without a doubt. There's no other word for it. It's a put up the video.
Mob, stop.
So a mob is not actually a mob because the word mob is not allowed on television anymore. But wait, aren't journalists supposed to be the champions of clear language? Well, not when euphemism better serves their political goals. If banning words is what it takes to help the Democratic Party, they're happy to do it. Not surprisingly, CNN did that very same segment again later in the day, repetition being the heart of propaganda. Watch it again.
Is it mob behavior? No, it's not mob behavior.
Yes,
it's people who are upset and they're angry with the way the country is going and the policies. In the Constitution, you can protest whenever and wherever you want. It doesn't tell you that you can't do it at a restaurant. It doesn't tell you that you can't do it on a football field. It doesn't tell you that you can't do it on a cable news show. You can do it wherever you want. And to call people mobs because they are exercising their constitutional right is just beyond the pale.
Did you hear that? What happened to Ted Cruz is not mob behavior. And by the way, it's, quote, beyond the pale for you to suggest otherwise. What happened to Cruz wasn't so different from those love-ins you've seen in the documentaries about the 1960s. Doe-eyed women in Indian print dresses passing out flowers to soldiers. In case you've forgotten, we have the Cruz tape. Watch.
We believe survivors. Texas racist anti-gay. We believe survivors. We believe survivors.
Okay, it wasn't quite as restrained or calm as we remembered. So let's pause for a second and consider how this story could be told differently. Same facts, different spin. A senator named Rafael Cruz is having dinner with his wife at a restaurant in Washington. A group of screaming, predominantly white political activists surround the couple and yell at them until they leave the building. That actually happened, as you just saw. But let's say this hypothetical Rafael Cruz was a liberal Democrat and not a Republican from Texas. You think Don Lemon and his fellow CNN anchors would describe that as a legitimate, constitutionally protected protest? Or could possibly the word mob come up, and white supremacy and Nazi? What do you think about that? This is not the first time, though, we've seen this variety of dishonesty. It was also Don Lemon, amazingly, who just last August came rushing to the defense of that emerging Democratic constituency, Antifa.
It says it right in the name, Antifa, anti-fascism, which is what they were there fighting. Listen, there's, no organization is perfect. There was some violence. No one condones the violence, but there were different reasons for Antifa and for these neo-Nazis to be there. One, racist fascists. The other group fighting racist fascists. There's a distinction there.
Yeah, Dumbo. Anti-fascist. It's in the name. There's a distinction there. Just as there was a distinction in Ferguson and Baltimore and Charlotte and every other city that's gone up in flames in the past 10 years. A riot was not a riot. It was a protest. Looting wasn't looting. It was undocumented shopping. And what you're hearing on cable news isn't news. It's lying. At least Eric Holder is brave enough to speak the truth without euphemism. Holder isn't some dopey CNN anchor taking orders from his superiors. He's the former Attorney General of the United States, the country's chief law enforcement officer. Holder doesn't need to pretend that a mob isn't a mob. He's running for president as a Democrat. His job is to assemble mobs and send them out on behalf of the Democratic Party. And that's exactly what he did today. Watch this.
Michelle says that, when they go low, we go high. No. When they go low, we kick them.
Kick them! Yay, yells the mob. Why not shoot them or burn them? Good question. Why not? The former attorney general has given his permission to get physical. Don't be surprised when they obey.